We're going to jump right on in to try to stay on our timeline. This is a really exciting and relevant panel about virtual services, looking at a future of resettlement and new models of delivering those services to the same level of impact, the same level of care, the same compassion, empathy. How do we do that in a remote setting? And so I'd like to introduce our panel lead, Emma Shaw, who is also a collaborator in this beautiful event. Let's just give her a round of applause here. I just had to, Emma. I'm so sorry. You're so amazing. She is our Deputy Director of Virtual Services on Switchboard. Emma Shaw leads virtual services at Switchboard, helping providers deliver high-quality, accessible, and innovative support. She brings over 12 years of experience in refugee resettlement, including roles with local resettlement offices in Minnesota and Chicago, and a site lead at the largest Afghan evacuee safe haven at the Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst. Did I do that one right? During the U.S. Department of State Bureau of Population's Refugee and Migration Team. So Emma's global work includes services in Mozambique through the Peace Corps and with refugee work in the West Bank. Emma, take it away.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I know this is our last panel of the day. We're going to try to make this super fun and engaging. The thing that I'm most excited about is that I think that this incredible panelist crew they're already doing virtual service delivery, and they're already successful in a lot of ways, and they've learned a lot of lessons. I'm super excited to be here, and I just want to start by kind of setting the picture for all of us. Across the country, we all know newcomers are navigating a range of needs as they adjust to life in a new place. Some have really straightforward questions that are easily responded to, and others require more ongoing support. At the same time, we also know that limited funding and capacity means an ever-widening gap between the support these newcomers need and the resources and services available to them today. So virtual services comes in as one way to bridge that gap. And as others have shared, virtual kind of started during the COVID era, but it got really formalized during that virtual Afghan placement and assistance program. That said, building something new and building it well, especially with limited resources, can feel like a Herculean task. And then for all of us who have provided services to newcomers in person, we also know that that work can't always translate directly in virtual services. So we have to rethink the way that we do case management in person if we want to do it virtually. It's not just an A to B translation. Today I'm joined by these panelists, four of my colleagues in this work. They've developed and worked on virtual service models that are creative, practical, cost-effective, and driven by the newcomers' own needs and goals. All of us together will explore how they've done it, what lessons they've learned, and what advice they have for all of you. I hope that this session sparks ideas, offers tangible tools, and maybe even provides a bit of inspiration for all of us as we move ahead. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce my incredible panelists. We have directly to my right, Bianca Nelson-Walton. Bianca is the Associate Director for Resettlement at Global Refuge and has led Global Refuge's resettlement programming since 2016, overseeing and establishing new resettlement initiatives, including the resettlement of thousands of vulnerable Afghans during Operation Allies Welcome. Many of us in this room as well have a lot of experience with OAW. So welcome, Bianca. We also have Nandini Sridhar, who is the Associate Director for Remote Services at Church World Service, or CWS, where she and a team of case managers support newcomers outside the service radius of brick and mortar service providers through 100% virtual services. Welcome, Nandini. We have Malad Kakar, who is the Senior Digital Community Officer for Settle In. And if you've never used the Settle In app or website, please go check it out. It's a fantastic resource for newcomers. He supports the platform's outreach to newcomers and helps guide implementation of key project activities. Welcome, Malad. And finally, last but certainly not least, we have Maria Hernandez, who comes from my home state, the great state of Minnesota. Maria is the Refugee and Immigrant Call Center and Community Outreach and Engagement Coordinator at the Minnesota Refugee and Immigrant Helpline. She provides business area planning across resettlement programs offices and contributes to developing services and support for newcomers in Minnesota. Thank you so much for being here, Maria. So again, super excited about this panel. I'm going to open it up just for each of our panelists to share briefly about their program, their virtual services, talk a little bit about that, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. I have a few questions myself ready to go, but I also want to open it up to all of you for any questions you may have. So I'm going to pass it to you, Bianca, to talk a little bit about VRMP.
Thank you, Emma. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bianca. I'm the Associate Director for Resettlement at Global Refuge. Good to be with you. As Emma previewed, I oversee the National Resettlement Program for our network. We have over 70 offices throughout the U.S. And in 2024, I had the pleasure and honor of beginning and launching for Global Refuge an initiative that actually IRC innovated that Emma was behind called the Virtual Reception and Placement Program. And so essentially what it is a virtual version of what we all know, well, a lot of us here in this room know, which is the traditional resettlement work that we do on the ground with our brick and mortar offices, day to day, serving our clients in person. So what this program really does is take that and make it virtual. What's great about this program is that it offers us the opportunity to increase family reunification and bring families closer together and really serve anywhere in the U.S. And that's what's the most exciting part, I think, about it. And this past year, Global Refuge was able to resettle around 900 individuals into the program rather quickly with limited resources, which is the whole point of this panel. Limited resources, this is our first time, this is our first time doing virtual services and really an experiment for Global Refuge to really see, is this something that we believe in? And at the end, we really feel like we've accomplished something where we're able to start something new, but also establish good relationships with our clients and not let the quality of our services suffer just because we're doing virtual services. So we've expanded our reach, and now we're in multiple different states serving virtual clients. So that's Global Refuge. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I just want to add to the virtual RFP because we also have Kaylee Donovan here from Highest. She led the VRMP initiative from the Highest side, and I'm sure there's others in the crowd that have done VRMP too. But VRMP really helped to meet that. Over 100,000 refugees were able to arrive in the last year. And I'm really proud of the work that the virtual RMP team has done across 6 different resettlement agencies. We all partnered. So thank you, Bianca. Nandini, I would love for you to share more about remote services at Church World Service.
Fantastic. Good afternoon, everyone. So I have the privilege of leading a team of virtual case managers at CWS. The project really began in FY23 through PC supplemental funding, where we were able to begin providing virtual PC case management to newcomers who were arriving outside of traditional resettlement communities and that still had needs for case management and welcoming services. And so we are now in our 3rd year of services, and we've been able to provide 200 individuals with individual case management services and provide referrals to over 500 individuals to help them connect to local community resources or brick and mortar ORR service providers. And this is our 3rd year of being able to implement services, and we do different flavors of PC. We have PC intensive case management that's really looking to support individuals who are navigating intersecting vulnerabilities and barriers to becoming self-sufficient with navigating their communities, regardless of where they're located in the United States. And then we also do short-term PC case management that's focused on supporting individuals when they first arrive into the United States with accessing OR services and benefits. and then providing additional case management as needed. And we have been able to also collaborate with other RAs in the virtual PC space, particularly with the IRC, and also with the North Dakota SRC to really help reach folks that are miles outside of a local service provider. So that's really one of the big strengths of our program.
Thanks so much, Nandini. And if I can add to that, we also have Sharika Bivens from IRC's virtual program. And I think the North Dakota thing is so interesting because North Dakota is a state that has a lot of rural community. And through the humanitarian parolees resettling in that state, they were going to a lot of rural areas where there was very limited service provision. So it's been a great resource for the state of North Dakota. I'll pass it next to Malad to talk a little bit about Settle In.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everybody. Parker, found your notes. I'm going to be using them this time. I actually hope that a lot of people, most of the people, if not all of you here, know about Settle In, especially if you did attend at the Confluence last year. And if you did attend and still do not know about Settle In, let's have a chat. I'll share some flyers and palm cards with you. That's about it. But anyways, so Settle In, what is Settle In? Settle In is a free and welcoming digital space which is designed to support anyone adjusting to life in the United States, regardless of where they are in their resettlement journey. Or what their immigration status is. We meet people where they are with information that's practical, trustworthy, and easy to understand. As for connecting with us, there are a few ways that newcomers can connect with Settle In. We have a website with over 1,000 resources that's been translated into over 10 languages. The newcomers can get on the website. There's no need to sign up or sign on. They can read the information, they can listen to it, they can watch to it, and access it at any time. We also have a mobile app where folks can watch short videos, complete interactive lessons, and also earn badges to track their progress. So something to kind of motivate them to continue going. We are very active on Facebook as well, where we share helpful posts in a variety of modalities and formats. We also host live events on our Facebook page, which dive deeper into some of the more essential topics for newcomers. The great aspect about our Facebook also is that newcomers can message our teams directly and get responses in their own language in real time. Now, if you attended this conference last year, you might remember us sharing that Settle In or our two-way messaging is only available via Facebook Messenger. And we were at the time thinking about expanding into other platforms, but this year I'm happy to report that we are also available and expanded to WhatsApp, Telegram, and Viber. So folks can message us on WhatsApp and Viber and Telegram, just like they did on Facebook Messenger. People or newcomers can message us in English, Dari, Pashto, Russian, Ukrainian, Spanish, and soon Haitian Creole, and get their responses in those languages. And again, if you attended this conference last year, we were talking about expanding into Haitian Creole. There was a whole exercise on how to scale up Settle In into Haitian Creole. And here we are, about to launch before the end of July. Our first digital community liaison who speaks Haitian Creole is actually onboarding now as we speak. So good progress over there. We hear a lot of important questions from our users. For example, they would reach out and be like, what will my first job be like in the United States? For these type of questions, we are honest with them. It might not be in the field that you worked when you were in your home country. It might be an entry-level job. But it's a stepping stone. It's going to give you the work experience in the United States. It's going to grow your connections and boost your confidence. So this is just an example of some of the questions that we get. Since we started in 2017, over 1 million people have accessed our resources and got the information that they needed through different platforms that Settle In offers. As far as our Facebook page, we have over 34,000 followers. And each week, we have about 200 one-on-one conversations with newcomers. 4 out of 5 users who had connected with Settle In has reported that Settle In had the information or resources that they needed. And even better, 100% of people who have connected with our team has indicated that they had a positive experience. Which brings me to my next point, actually, which is our amazing language teams of 5 people, soon to be 6. They are really, we refer to them as the digital community liaisons, and they are basically at the heart of the work we do. They speak the languages that the newcomers speak. They all have lived experiences of migration and displacement, and they understand the challenges of resettlement in the United States. So every day they're messaging with newcomers to offer personalized help without any need for interpretation. They also create and translate content, host live events, and bring content ideas forward based on what we are listening from the users. So for example, if we are getting a lot of questions at a certain point of time about, say, how to find a job, they are like, we are getting quite a lot of questions about how to find a job. Let's create content on that. So we decide either to do a live event or create a video or create a Facebook post about how that process is in the United States. So each year, our digital community liaisons connect with over 5,000 individuals and help them understand some of the very important topics about life in the United States, including employment, housing, healthcare, taxes, and many more. At the Settle-In, we are not just about giving information out to people. We are also about trust and empowering newcomers. So we work really hard to make complicated topics simple and accessible and understandable. We give newcomers the space to ask questions and make decisions that are right for them. So we provide them the information, empower them with them, and it's up to them to make this decision that's right for them. We are also pushing back against a lot of misinformation and scams that I'm sure you all are aware of by providing a platform to folks that they can come back to, which is also reliable. We understand that as you are navigating new life in a new country, it's difficult to digest a lot of information at once. So we keep that in mind, keep that mental load in mind, and we try to present information in small digestible chunks. And they always remain on our website and Facebook for newcomers to come back and visit and refresh their memories. Lastly, we don't only help newcomers, but we also support service providers and community sponsors. Our translated and vetted resources are available for everyone, and they're super easy to share, which means more people get the right information that they need. And that's pretty much it about Settle-In. Thank you.
Pretty much it. You guys are incredible. Thank you, Malad, for sharing. It's such a cool resource. I really appreciate Settle-In. And I just want to highlight that all three programs that our first three panelists talked about were national programs. We now have a state-specific program, and I would love Maria to talk about the Minnesota Refugee and Immigrant Helpline.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here. You guys could hear me? Well, I coordinate the Refugee and Immigrant Helpline. We serve all new Americans, newcomers, sponsors, state workers, county workers, whoever calls the helpline. We don't shy away from any call. We make sure that we have housing information, resources for them, like if they're looking for health insurance, they're looking for legal resources, we try to connect them wherever they're at, whatever city, zip code, through the whole state of Minnesota. We do direct referrals. We do have access to the MRIS that we connect them and refer them to for resettlement program. We do try to connect everybody because we have our helpline, but everybody's afraid to call. They're afraid to call, so we're trying to make sure that we have that everybody knows it's a safe line. You could just provide us whatever you're comfortable with, and let us know what resources you're looking for. And we launched the pilot, this call center, about a year now, so we're fully remote right now, only 2 navigators, Ukrainian, Russian, Spanish, and English. And we do use a language line for other languages. We have served over 800 callers already, so we're hoping to increase that and continue growing. And the successes that we have had is knowing that whenever we do join a community event, we hear from callers that we have helped them and they got the resources that they were looking for. So that's a big plus for us, that we're actually doing something good for the community. The challenges are that we face are that we cannot help everybody, and we have to be okay with that. But that we do follow through, that if it's 4 months after a call we didn't have an answer, 4 months or 5 months after, we found a solution. And we were able to call them back and giving them that information. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much, Maria, for sharing. Thank you. We're going to just move into some questions that I have prepared, but I would also like to open it up for questions. So start thinking if you have any burning questions. We do want you guys to raise them here. The first question I'm going to ask is going to go to Bianca and Maria. What motivated you guys to do virtual services in the first place, considering resource constraints?
Happy to go first. So I don't know how much you all are aware of the goal that the State Department placed on just the U.S. to resettle 100,000 refugees last year. Spoiler alert, we did achieve that. We actually surpassed it by just a bit, but we did. And we achieved it because of alternative resettlement methods, including virtual RMP. This was a way in which we were able to scale up pretty quickly, like within weeks, actually, to be able to scale up, bring on staff, train staff, and get them ready to resettle people virtually. And the great thing about it was that it lessened the burden that was placed on our offices, and granted, not a burden that they didn't want, right? They just didn't have the staff. It's hard to hire. You know, there's so many reasons why a local resettlement office may not have had the resources or the capacity to be able to scale up in the way and as quickly as we needed to last year. And so the virtual RMP program was a means for us to be able to do that. So yes, in partnership with IRC, along with 4 other national resettlement agencies, we did that, and we were able to bridge the gap not significantly, but we were able to bridge the gap and contribute to achieving 100,000 resettled last year. So that was a great achievement. But that's what motivated Global Refuge to really participate in the program, as we saw the need and we felt like we could support in achieving the need.
Thanks, Bianca. Maria?
Our answer would be the motivation came from live experiences from our RPO team. We're all a very diverse team. It's a family to all of us. And then when we launched the helpline, it was to bridge the gap, like for the resources for everybody that would have a safe line to call and ask for anything that they were calling and be able to deliver.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Nandini, what low-cost or no-cost tools have been most effective in virtual services for you?
Great. I think after the AI discussion, y'all are going to be very disappointed with my answers.
The same thing.
We're the low-tech panel. So low-tech. We're low-tech here.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have holographics or something like that beaming down into people's apartments or anything. But I do think that we learned a lot of things from the pandemic experience and going to virtual services out of necessity, that those lessons have definitely been able to be useful implementing virtual services. And so we really rely on our case managers' ability to build rapport through action and not just words. And so that's really the high-tech solution. The low-tech, tried and true solution is we use the phones, we use the technology that our program participants are using. If they're emailing us, asking us questions, we will use email to facilitate connecting them to resources. We do use WhatsApp and Viber as well. And then we've gotten to have some fun on Zoom this past year. We've actually been able to use breakout rooms and try out interpretation channels, which if anybody has some questions about that, it was a little painful, but we did it. So lessons learned there. But it was a nice way to be able to bring people together from diverse geographies into one space and build community when someone might be alone in a particular situation, where now that they're participating in our programming virtually, they're building community, they're connecting with their caseworkers, they're going step by step through their plan and getting connected to resources and services that they are ready to participate in, and they might just be getting a little bit of pushback or not sure where to go. So those are really some of the low-tech solutions we've been using.
Thanks you so much, Nandini. And I wanted to kind of just add on to that. For this panel, I told each panelist, it's okay to have low tech that you're sharing. We know you guys already understand phones and text messages, but really thinking about that paradigm shift of this is stuff that we do in person normally. We recognize in person is the gold standard, but how are we efficient? How are we able to serve more people and in a broader geographic area through virtual services? So again, thank you. And I agree, like it's low tech, but there are ways to utilize these tools to provide high quality services. Malad, what's one way you support your staff to avoid burnout when delivering the virtual services?
Yeah, that's a good question and more so relevant today with the limited capacity that we have. So a few of the things that I've done with my staff personally is basically encouraging my staff to make sure they block time for breaks and recovery throughout the workday and throughout the week as well. So that, they can step away from the screen for a little bit, and even a 10-minute, 15-minute walk does a lot in terms of making sure your staff don't get burned out. They could also, capacity is limited, but if feasible, switch between doing high-intensity tasks and tasks that don't require so much. That also helps. For example, for us, it would be switching between doing direct messaging with users and doing translations, switching between the two so you're not overwhelmed by that. I think also for our one-on-one check-ins that I have with my staff, we don't only focus on talking about work progress or work updates. We also focus on the workload. What is your workload like? What's your energy level like? What is your stress? So that way we can address it kind of proactively. So basically just providing that psychological safety or psychologically safe space to your staff where they can openly and honestly talk to you about their workload and express how they're feeling.
Thanks, Malad. It sounds very similar to avoiding burnout in person too. So I appreciate your tips and tricks. I wanted to go to you, Maria, for this next question because you mentioned this about trust. Can you share any lessons you've learned about building trust and maintaining engagement with clients? You may never meet them in person.
Well, I do provide direct services. So if I talk to them over the phone or my other navigator, then we try to make sure that we don't promise anything that we cannot deliver.
Yeah.
And letting them know up ahead. We might not have the solution or the answer that you're looking for, but most likely I'm going to try my best and try to get you whatever I'm able and capable of delivering. The other thing is follow up and listen. Actually listen with the community leaders, our staff, our team, and talking over it, because we do have, like you said, we have one-on-one with our higher up, and going over some of the calls and everything, and then they'll give us feedback. So then we're able to, I remember having that one caller last month, let me call them out and let them know this is what I found out. But even though I wasn't able to give them an answer, but at least they know that they could trust. They could trust us and calling us back whenever they need us again.
Yeah, that's really good. I think it's that follow-up piece that really is helpful. Yeah. Any other thoughts on the trust building that any other panelists would share?
I think in our case, since we are virtual, definitely following up, being honest and open about what you can and can't do. Do not overpromise to somebody. And also personalizing your responses goes a long way. So basically like addressing them by their name or referring to one of the older concerns that they had shared so that they know that they're not just a value or a number for us. We really we are trying to build a relationship and trust with them. Yeah.
Can I also add to I think one thing that really became apparent for us is that regardless of if you're in person providing services or virtually providing services, managing expectations was always key. Making sure that we were communicating to our clients what they can expect, and so making sure we're establishing trust through that means is critical regardless of how you're providing the service. It doesn't matter. It's really about your communication with the client and making sure that they understand what they're getting into.
Thanks, Bianca. I agree. That's always a challenge, I think, in the work that we do. I think this is a good question just for the open panel, so feel free to respond. How are you guys measuring the effectiveness of your virtual services? how have you guys been able to evaluate and measure that?
I could speak. We're doing surveys. We're asking community leaders. We're talking to our RPO team, and we take the feedback and we talk over it, and we try to implement the changes. Yep.
Thanks, Maria. Other thoughts?
Yeah, we also conduct surveys with our users that have reached out to us, that are following our page on how we are doing, did they find information helpful, were they able to make a decision or complete a process based off of the information they were provided. And next to that, our users are pretty good with, so we communicate with them, they ask a question, we answer to them, and then they come back to us and they're like, oh, thank you so much, this was very helpful. So that kind of also shows us that, that it's being effective. But yeah, doing the surveys and then hearing directly from our users.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think if I could jump in, definitely agree with the approach of actively listening to the program participants and taking feedback, trying to incorporate it into our work, despite the different constraints that we all face. But I know that somebody else was talking about funding and grantees. And so we do, as in the words of a former client, do a lot of paperwork. All America is paperwork. So we have a ton of resources that we have been able to look at some of the qualitative feedback we've gotten from our program participants. And we do assessments with our clients. That's part of the funding structure with the Preferred Communities grants. And we've looked at changes over time with the different risk domains and the different needs. And it really matched, no surprise, I guess, but it really matched the qualitative feedback that we were getting from our program participants. And we saw that risk domains that were still areas that required additional focus was access to just immigration policy to support folks as they are on their journey to life and rebuilding their life in the United States, but also financial management and employment. And so that is how we birthed our pilot economic empowerment program at CWS's remote virtual services to bring more group training on different economic empowerment topics as a wraparound service to our individualized PC case management to help folks build skills with navigating that particular risk domain in order to be responsive to the program participants' needs, both through active listening, but also through looking at some of the data that we had collected as part of the work we were already doing to be compliant with our funders and just assess overall needs.
Great. Thank you so much. I just have another question here. If you could add one resource to your virtual services toolbox, what would it be and what difference would it make? And I can open it up again if anybody wants to respond.
I can kick us off, and I hope I don't get blamed for plagiarism, because I know a few of the folks over here are already thinking and working on this. But I think one thing that would be super helpful for us in terms of virtual service delivery would be some sort of multilingual AI chatbot that's connected to our language or our messaging platforms. That would be super helpful, especially given the limited capacity. The chatbot could sort of manage responding to routine and more simpler questions, where we can have the teams focus on more tricky and more difficult questions. So definitely that multilingual AI chatbot.
Thanks, Malad.
I think I would say it would be like a welcome kit. It's already invented, but for us, it would be with our helpline flyer in their own language. Everybody that's coming in, however they're landing here, well, in Minnesota, with our phone number, because they receive a packet with different resources, but they don't know how to use it. They don't know how to navigate it. So at least our phone number, they'll memorize our phone number, and they could call, and we could help them navigate that.
That's a great one. Thank you. Other thoughts about toolkits?
I just want Malad to call me when he needs people to test his new chatbot because we have people.
Happily.
Making connections. I like it. I'm going to stop with my questions here because I would like to open it up to the audience. And if I can ask someone to help with handing out the microphone, yes.
Someone was volunteering for the mic duty.
I can if you want me to, but I don't know if you want that. Hi, thanks for letting me ask a question. So I'm from the state of Wisconsin, and we are very actively considering what we can do with virtual services to ensure that services remain available, especially in more remote communities. So I actually have two questions, if I can be greedy. So the first is regarding languages you were just speaking to. In Wisconsin and Milwaukee specifically, our largest community group are Burmese Rohingya, who have no official written language. So first, when we think of virtual tools, often we have to rely on the written word, and when that's not a viable tool, any thoughts on how you can overcome that challenge? So question one for anyone. And question two is, you mentioned, a few people mentioned how in-person and one-on-one is sort of the gold standard, and we've seen that bear out. We're considering any possibly viable ways to do a hybrid approach where certain services are still delivered in person, but then maybe other more specialized services are done virtually. Any experiences or lessons learned on what you wish you could have done in person versus virtual, things that you thought would have been a good fit for virtual, but maybe this other thing was better for in person?
Great question. I'll open up to my panel for responding to either.
I can start if that's okay. Just to your first question, I think what we tried to do, because it's not just for unique, for specific languages, it's also different literacy levels too across our clients. So we would just meet them where they were. So if they, again, preferred a phone call or, video conference or whatever it is, like FaceTime or whatever, that's what we did with that client. And some of the things that we had in development were like videos. And I know IRC, I believe, created a really nice AI video. Yeah. Some really cool materials coming out of IRC for this program as well. And so we were looking to also do the same thing so that way we could provide visuals to our clients that may not have the level of literacy that, to read a document or something like that with that type of information. So that would be my response to the first question. And then for the second question, remind me again. Hybrid, yes, hybrid, thank you. Actually, so we did do that a little bit. We did all of our case management remotely. However, we did partner with local affiliates because what we experienced previously through like other sorts of similar type initiatives where just similar initiatives is that the local affiliates were oftentimes supporting in different ways the virtual folks, right? Us essentially. We are the newbies in the community, and the affiliates are really the experts in the community who know how to talk to that one DSS person to get the application pushed through. Don't go to SSA between these periods of time because you're never going to get out. Like those type of, they're going to be at lunch or the supervisor's not going to be there or whatever the case may be. And so we partnered with certain affiliates within the community so that way we could connect our clients to referrals locally and do it directly. So they would then be in charge of a region, and they would then make sure that no client was falling through the cracks and that we were, connecting clients appropriately. So from our perspective, we found it to be, and then we were able to fund them as well through this. So that way it wasn't like because what was happening previously was kind of like an unfunded thing where it's like, all right, I guess I'm kind of the de facto mentor for, this case. We were able to actually fund them to be able to provide that level of service and train them and let them know exactly what type of services we were looking for them to provide. But we did all the case management virtually, so that part still is whole.
We have another question here, but a quick plug. Tomorrow's workshop is on virtual video creation, and we will be demoing Synthesia, which is the model that we used for the video that you referenced.
Thank you. Any other responses to the question?
I guess one other thing I'd add to the hybrid approach is CWS's remote services is kind of in a unique position because we are a team that's based out of HQ, and I'm not balancing my time. My team's not balancing our time between in-person traditional services and the rush of folks like coming into the office during walk-in hours and meeting this one individual in the one community in the one state that you're serving. And so thinking about how you can build some protection around that so that people aren't getting pulled in a million directions, and like whether it's like, oh, you're gonna have some interns that are focused on resource mapping so that way the case manager can get it and like just run with it, and how to reduce some of the tasks that could be outreached while still like using this expertise of the case manager in a way that's in line with their skills. It's one other recommendation.
Yeah, and about the languages and literacy levels, we have been thinking about this too within our program, and a few options that we have talked about that we are doing, as well as far as content creation, we are focusing more on creating video content that's more visual, more video, more audio content. And in terms of user messaging, as them reaching out, all of our messaging platforms allows the users to send us a voice message rather than a text message. And our teams are able to just record back and send them a voice message in their response. So those are some of the solutions that we have thought about and implemented so far.
Let's talk after, though, because I think there's a lot of good collaboration we can do.
Yeah, and I think further to that, since I have the mic, Ben, if there's anything Switchboard can do to help you position yourself in the future to do all these things, we are training a technical assistance service provider. Everybody in this room can access that. My question, I think, really is for Nandini and Milad, because you both mentioned a few different messaging platforms you're using. And while I think the risks are very different from feeding into a large language model, you are using platforms that have different levels of encryption, et cetera. What do you do about personally identifying information? Do you collect it? How do you protect it?
Yeah, it is a good question. So for us at Settleland, we do not collect PII unless we really need it to, for example, answer their question about eligibility. So like if they're asking about whether they're eligible for a certain program, we need to know their immigration status. So those are some of the cases that we ask. Generally, we refrain from asking people their PII for their PII. Yeah, sometimes users self-identify, share with us, but we do not, unless we need to answer their question, we do not ask for it. For example, if somebody messages us and they're just wondering where to get cheap clothes or say free food, we don't need to know any of their information. It's available for everybody. We just refer them to food banks or Goodwills in different states. But yeah, we only ask it if we need to answer the user's question.
And I think we're on a different side of the coin. We are required to collect a lot of data, a lot. But we use the same database that the rest of the CWS network is already using. And we kind of got lucky because weirdly, the database we were using already had a platform built in to collect signatures and fill out paperwork with clients built into it that we've been able to just roll out and use, which works 95% of the time. And I think there are situations where we're relying on the postal system and might ask a client to fill out paperwork old school style. So it's a little bit of yes and with flexibilities. And then we also thankfully have an IT department that does look into the different securities on different types of platforms and whether or not we can use them or not. So like we can't download WhatsApp desktop and do screen sharing from our computer, for example. So we rely on the IT department too to help us kind of like navigate some of these complex and really important issues. And I think we've also been revisiting conversations with clients on informed consent in the climate that we're in, and just trying to pull back the confusing nuances that are like, what does it mean when you sign this? Because most of the time people are like, oh yeah, I'll sign anything you want, Bianca. You're amazing. You helped my family and I feel really welcomed by you. And just wanting to get a little bit more into the weeds and transparent with that process as well for our folks.
I have a question. Hi, this is for you, Nandini. First of all, I want to say thank you for being such an incredible partner in the work that we've done. You and Sharika have often been a backstop for a lot of the referrals that we receive, and so just a massive thank you for that. My question really comes from, your program, the services that you provide being fully remote. Have there been any limitations that have arisen from being fully remote, and what have you guys done to fill any sort of gaps that have arisen from just being fully remote? Any collaborations you've made at the local level, et cetera, to really fill those gaps?
Yeah, I'm definitely looking for a funder who's willing to fly us out to random parts of the United States for those rare occasions where we're like, what is happening? Because it is, you don't have your full five senses when you're working with someone when you're not sitting in the room with them. So you do lose certain pieces of the puzzle sometimes. And so what we've been able to do is really work with community partners. I know sometimes we've been working with welcome court cases where the sponsors are part of the community and they might be able to bring someone to an appointment. And that was a way where they're not necessarily taking the lead on a challenging conversation, but they're playing a really important role in a different aspect. And then we also work with medical providers, and we've had situations where it's a little unclear what's going on and why the program participant isn't exactly able to follow through on some of the next steps with their treatment options, which is leading to the medical situation and getting worse. And so we're able to reach out to the health program in their community and figure out a way to collaborate as stakeholders and lay out the options and support the individual with getting through the different steps. And whereas if I was just in person, I would be knocking on their door and saying, "You ready to go for a ride today?" And we can't do that. So it's a lot of creativity that everybody uses every day. That's, I think, as service providers, we like challenges and we're really great at coming up with solutions and persevering and getting creative when we need to be. So I think with virtual services, it's not something to be intimidated by because you already have that skill of being able to overcome challenges.
Okay, and a question from the live stream. The question is, are the national programs open to help only refugees or any newcomers?
As far as settlements concerned, any newcomer can message us, and we'll try to support them.
Yeah, with the CWS's virtual services, we are predominantly OR funded, so we're really focused on specific OR communities, which predominantly we've been serving. We can serve anyone that's OR eligible, but predominantly we've been focusing on, or we happen to be working with Ukrainian humanitarian parolees, Cuban, Haitian entrants, and Afghans of a variety of ORR eligible populations, but we serve communities across that OR spectrum.
And from Global Refuge, we're fully funded by the Department of State, so our program is specifically geared towards refugees and RMP eligible clients.
Because you do need that information to be able to decide to say, yes, you are eligible. If we found out in the course of that conversation they weren't, we weren't hanging up the phone on them, but we weren't able to provide the whole scope of services. We could just say, this is where you'll go for the food bank. I'm sorry, that's all we can provide you or whatever. But its eligibility is a question you do have to ask when it's an ORR or the funder requires it. And then I know Minnesota, I think you guys have
state funding.
Yeah.
State funding. Yeah.
So it is helpful to have hybrid funding and funding where you can maybe serve a wider population. Minnesota, they have a little bit of a hybrid funding. Okay, I'm gonna take us home with my final question. Thanks, Layla. For each of you, what's one piece of advice you'd give to a program just getting started with virtual services and perhaps feeling overwhelmed by resource constraints?
Oh, I can go first. Always include your staff, your whole team on decision making, because some of us, everybody has a little bit experiences in every area, and everything that they can provide will be very helpful. And listen to them and see where you could the changes that you could make. Yeah, I think that's about it.
I can add a little bit to that. So I think just start small, you know, build from what works. Really get to know, like you don't need a fully complete platform or a complete suite to start delivering virtual services. Really get to know your population or your clients that you're going to be working with. And find one core need that they have. Try to address that core need as simply and clearly as you can. And I think that'll go a very long way. Technology and everything can grow with you, but that's where you really need to start.
Yeah, I definitely encourage an agile approach where you're just focusing on one piece of the problem and getting started with a limited scope, and then from there growing. I know that we are still dreaming of all kinds of things and ways we can grow at CWS and what comes next. But I would say, like I spoke to this earlier, but thinking about if you are doing a hybrid model, like ways to kind of preserve bandwidth and prevent the chicken with the head case manager running around. So trying to think of ways to pull in like other members of the community. If it is just a one-off situation, you know, CWS and IRC is doing this. Like we've worked in the state of North Dakota in really rural communities and supported there. And actually, the state of North Dakota ended up hiring someone, and they had an on-person service provider. But in the meantime, it was a wonderful opportunity to meet the need while they were rolling out additional programming that made sense for them in their state.
I would just say start simple. I mean, we started our resettlement program with Excel. Or close your ears if you're talking about AI and stuff. Excel, we use a little bit of SurveyMonkey. I mean, just like all the things that we already had, all the systems that we already had access to, and then we were able to grow into those better, but also grow into newer systems. And I forget exactly how you worded it, but I appreciated what you said, because you grow with the technology, I think it was, or let the technology grow with you or something like that. But yeah, I agree, because you start somewhere and then you go from there. And I think the only other piece of advice I would just offer is to trust your program, trust the type of program that you're trying to develop. I forget who said it on the panel, but somebody said it really well. Just that, you know, we're case managers at our core, and we provide services from a place of providing dignity, ensuring that there's dignity in the work that we're providing. And so we want to make sure that our clients are being served well, high quality services, regardless of, as I said earlier, of how they're being served. And so they're going to know if I'm a terrible case manager over the phone versus in person in front of them. And so I think part of it, too, is we trusted that we were good at what we did, and the technology will get better as it went along.
Thank you guys so much. Wonderful. A wrap up. Thank you, Layla. I just want to, Christy, if I can just show really quick the key takeaways. Sorry. Sorry, can you advance? Thank you. So I just wanted to talk really quick about the key takeaways. I think this is what we all ended up touching on. Low-tech tools work, right? Virtual services can be effectively delivered using super simple, accessible methods like phone calls and messaging. No advanced tech required to get started. That doesn't mean that we can't grow towards using artificial intelligence, but to get started, you just need to get started. Empowering clients. Let's remember, our clients are incredibly resilient, resourceful human beings. They can use this technology oftentimes better than I can, right? And so empowering clients and then involving them in their own resettlement journey. Offering them kind of a suite of services is what we did with our program, and they were able to say, I can do that one on my own. Well, that one, actually, can you help me with that one? Empowering them, reminding them of their resilience and resourcefulness. And finally, collaboration. Right? Getting started, but also recognizing partnerships in the communities you are serving virtually are key. We cannot do this work without some people on the ground in that community. It is very difficult. And even more importantly, partnerships amongst service providers. virtual RMP worked really well because we had 6 different national RAs partnering together. We met every single week. We were collaborative. We said, this is not working for us. How about you guys? And we kind of figured it out together. And so really staying as collaborative as possible. And I'm so excited for the rest of this confluence. We're all here. Please come ask questions. Let's talk more about what you guys can do in virtual service delivery. Thank you again to our amazing panelists, and I'll pass to Christy. I turned it off.